Chickens. Where you at?
Huge shout out to all of the Adventurers Guild members here on YouTube and all of the supporters from Patreon for their dedicated support of keeping this channel always on the rise.
Chickens. Where you at?
Huge shout out to all of the Adventurers Guild members here on YouTube and all of the supporters from Patreon for their dedicated support. Greetings everyone. How y'all doing today? Welcome to a special episode. Mondays in Middle Earth usually airs at 11 a.m. Central Time here on my channel, where I've been reading through The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion leading up to The Rings of Power as part of my ongoing educational series of educating myself on or relearning The Lord of the Rings, because the last time I read the books was 20 plus years ago. And the internet was not what it is today. We didn't have all the resources back then that we have today to research and investigate all these different things. A lot more people have opinions now. A lot more scholars have sprung up around Tolkien. We have lots of Tolkien experts now who are doing different things related to Lord of the Rings. We have folks on TikTok, folks on Instagram, folks on YouTube, so on and so forth. I have been reading through them right now. I'm on the Two Towers. Right now, we're at Chapter 8, The Road to Isengard, which we've gotten some really cool stuff out of the way in the Two Towers. But today's special episode of Mondays in Middle Earth is a Rings of Power discussion. live for the first time. Usually I do my Rings of Power videos as an uploaded version, but I said, what the hell? I've got some time this Monday. Let's do an experiment and see how a live version around Rings of Power goes. So, if this is your first time tuning in, I am Renfail, aka the Bearded Dwarven Princess. I typically do 1 or 2 Rings of Power videos per week. I am definitely on the side of, you know, Rings of Power could be a good show, but it hasn't shown me that it's going to be yet because they appear to be doing a lot of things with the storyline and lore that just don't make any sense. There appears to be a lot of forced wokeism and things that I just don't see from a storyline perspective. And we no longer have the guiding hand that is Christopher Tolkien at the helm protecting his father's legacy. So now one of the issues is that the Tolkien estate is at the whim of a generation of individuals who have no ties to the legacy that is the um, Tolkien heritage and appears to be just doing things for the money at the moment. Anyway, welcome. William says so early. It's not that early. It's only 11 o'clock. Technically, we're supposed to go live at 11. I'm a few minutes. I'm a few minutes early. More coffee. I should have gotten a cup of coffee before I sat down, but I did not. So we're going to be diving into some stuff today. So when last we left off last week, we had talked about the just banging my monitor here. What's up, Crinkled? Um, when last we left off last week with our last Rings of Power video, we were discussing the recent main trailer that had launched. We're definitely going to be diving into that here in a few moments. I'm going to give here, we're going to give another 5 minutes or so as we wait for people to tune in. Like a lot of what we've seen so far from the trailers has been very generic fantasy as opposed to Tolkien, which Tolkien had a very specific way of writing words as a professor of language that led to the dialogue being very different from what we would see from traditional fantasy. Like J.R. Tolkien is a lot different from R.A. Salvatore, if that makes sense. Like R.A. Salvatore being a modern day writer who is no doubt a best-selling author, but he's a very different fantasy type of writing compared to J.R.R. Tolkien, who was doing things with words that we wouldn't be doing today. Plus, the style of writing for The Lord of the Rings is, 100 years old ish. Um, so yeah, we shall see. I got a few things on the agenda today, but I'm also going to be open to conversation points based on what people in the chat want me to talk about. So if you have something you want me to address, if you have a thought process, or if you have something you want me to look at, please let me know in the chat below, and I will get to that RA grossness. Hey, Salvatore has some decent stuff, but he also has stuff that it's very repetitive. RA Salvatore is a very predictable writer, and his writing style is very one-dimensional, I feel. Not to say they aren't entertaining books. I love the Icewind Dale trilogy. I think I like the Dark Elf trilogy more than the Icewind Dale trilogy. Both are good though. And I've read some of his other work. His Star Wars stuff I didn't really care for because again it was very one-dimensional. And when I read his Star Wars stuff, I was like, this is definitely. It feels like I'm reading Star Wars written by R.A. Salvatore as opposed to it just being a Star. Like if you've never read like Kevin J. Anderson's Star Wars stuff is very good. Michael Stackpole's Star Wars stuff exceptional. Um, what was her name? Barbara. God, she wrote a bunch of fantasy stuff in like the 70s and 80s, and I can't remember her last name. She wrote like a standalone Star Wars novel that was really good. Stackpole's stuff is some of my favorite though. The X